Have you ever wondered why everyone fears piranhas and think they'll instantly eat you alive the moment you touch the water? First off, piranhas don't even hunt humans. Most species are omnivores that eat insects, fruits, seeds, and small fish, and some don't eat meat at all, feeding only on fish scales. Millions of people swim and fish in piranha-infested rivers every year, yet fatal attacks are extremely rare. You're actually more likely to die from bee stings or dog attacks than from piranhas. Even the most feared species, the red-bellied piranha, isn't the monster people imagine. They swim in groups not to hunt more effectively, but because they're scared. Scientists have found that they literally breathe faster when alone due to anxiety. Most piranha bites on humans occur only when people handle them incorrectly or disturb them during breeding season. You know what's strange about eels? No one actually knows how they make babies. Let's cut this eel open. But wait, you find nothing. No eggs, no visible sex organs. So how do they keep appearing? To solve this mystery, scientists tried giving females sexy hormones to attract males, but instead the eels started eating each other. Then they placed a bunch of eels together in tanks, but instead of mating, they just ate each other again. Finally, scientists decided to track them to their spawning grounds. They took a bunch of eels, fitted them with trackers, and set them loose. But most trackers slipped off. So they tried again, and this time, one eel led them all the way to the Bermuda Triangle. It turns out every eel is born in one place, the Sargasso Sea, inside the Bermuda Triangle. Scientists went there and collected more than 7,000 eggs from the ocean floor, but not a single one was an eel egg. Did you know dolphins bully pufferfish just to get high? They do this by surrounding a pufferfish and taking turns lightly biting it. Then to traumatize the fish even more, they throw it out of the water and pass it around while playing with it. This constant harassment puts the pufferfish into panic mode, forcing it to activate its defense mechanism and release one of the deadliest poisons in the world, called tetrodotoxin, which is strong enough to kill around 30 adult humans. However, dolphins seem to know exactly how much of this poison they can tolerate, so they carefully pass it around, absorbing small amounts of the poison for around 30 minutes before finally letting the pufferfish swim away. Afterward, the dolphins enter a euphoric state, appearing calm and sometimes floating near the surface, seemingly fascinated by their own reflection. Did you know fish die if they stop swimming? But how do they sleep? Well, most animals sleep by shutting down their brain. However, for a fish, that's a problem, because if they turn off their brain, they stop swimming, and then the water flowing through their gills stops too. As a result, oxygen drops and the fish can suffocate.
But I'm tired.
Don't worry. Because of this problem, they have evolved a clever solution called uni-hemispheric sleep. Their brain is divided into two halves, and when they need rest, one half of the brain goes into sleep mode while the other half stays awake, keeping the body moving just enough to push water over the gills. These are three animals that sacrifice their own babies for survival. First is the polar bear. You're born tiny and helpless in the freezing Arctic, and your mother hasn't eaten for months. So instead of protecting you, if food is scarce or you're too weak to survive, she may eat you herself. But worst of all is the poison dart frog. Your mother carefully lays eggs, carries you to a tiny water pool, and feeds you unfertilized eggs to keep you alive. However, if food runs out, she simply stops coming back. And without her, you slowly starve in the exact place she put you to survive. Next is the hamster. You're born blind and hairless in what seems like a safe nest, but the moment your mother feels stressed, hears loud noises, or senses danger one by one, she may eat her own babies to conserve energy and try again later. How did this dentist manage to kill 98 soldiers in World War II? It all started when Ben L. Solomon was treating wounded U.S. soldiers at a forward aid station on the edge of the front line. Suddenly, 5,000 Japanese soldiers charged to try and overrun the Americans, catching the defenders completely by surprise. Solomon saw enemy troops bayoneting helpless wounded outside the tent. So without hesitation, he grabbed an M1 Garand from one of his patients and fired, killing the first attackers. Then, moments later, 2 more soldiers stormed into the tent. He shot them dead. After that, 4 more began crawling in. Solomon fought hand to hand, using his rifle and bayonet to stop them. Seeing the situation worsening, Solomon ordered the station evacuated, instructing his men to retreat while he stayed behind to cover them. Then, in an extraordinary act of bravery, he manned an abandoned heavy machine gun, firing relentlessly into the enemy force and holding them back long enough for his comrades to escape. When the U.S. Army retook the station a few days later, Solomon's body was found surrounded by 98 dead Japanese soldiers. How one soldier's decision not to pull the trigger cost the world millions of lives. In 1918, during World War I, a British soldier was positioned inside a trench facing the enemy lines. Suddenly, through a thick cloud of mist, he saw the silhouette of a man in the distance. Unable to tell whether it was an ally or an enemy, Henry kept his gun trained on the figure, waiting as the man came closer and closer. When the man finally came into clear view, Henry realized it was an unarmed, injured German soldier, limping forward with his head lowered. Henry had killed many people throughout his career, but he followed one personal rule. He would never harm an injured soldier. This time was no different. Henry lowered his gun, nodded at the soldier, and let him go. He didn't know it then, but he had just saved the life of a young Adolf Hitler. How did this man become the luckiest known person to ever exist? His unbelievable streak of luck began in 1962 during a train ride that suddenly derailed into a freezing river. 17 people drowned, yet he emerged with only a broken arm. Then, just a year later, he boarded his first plane, and mid-flight both engines failed while the door ripped off, sucking him into the sky. Miraculously, he landed safely in a haystack while 19 passengers inside died. After that, in 1966, a bus he was traveling on crashed. 4 people died, but he walked away unhurt. A few years later, in 1970, his car suddenly burst into flames and he dove out just before it exploded. Then, in 1995, he was struck by a bus and walked away without a scratch. A year later, a careless truck forced him off a mountain road, yet he was ejected from his car, caught a tree midair, and watched as the vehicle exploded beneath him. And to top it all off, in 2003, he bought his very first lottery ticket and won a $1 million jackpot. During World War II, a man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima when he noticed a single aircraft flying overhead. Moments later, an atomic bomb exploded nearly 2 miles away. He was thrown to the ground and seriously injured, but he survived the blast. The next day, he managed to return to his hometown, Nagasaki. While at work, Yamaguchi was explaining to his supervisor how an entire city had been destroyed by a single bomb, when another atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Because he was inside a reinforced concrete building and reacted immediately, he survived again.